Hi everyone, it's Nancy McNally, Nancy McNally Quilts, and today is block 3 of the pumpkin spice quilt along. I am so excited. The more I work with this fabric and create this quilt and even write the pattern, I am loving it. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes before we move on to actually making the block. So the block is the pumpkin spice block. So got it right here. All right, so we need to talk about what you're going to get in your pattern download. Obviously, you're going to get the pattern. You're also going to get a coloring page. Now, this pattern or this block also has one tiny foundation paper piecing. Don't have a panic attack. It's okay. It's just the stem, and I promise you, I'm going to show you step by step, and even in the pattern, I give you actual visuals of me. Here's this part right here, working with it. It is so incredibly easy to do this. So that is the biggest skill, or not the biggest, the main skill that we're going to learn with this block. So I told you I'm going to take you guys one step at a time, and we have one thing we're going to focus on each time, and we're going to build upon that skill. So the one thing we haven't done with all the single quilt block, that whole series, is paper piecing. So I'm going to give you a little backstory about paper piecing. It's what I was always told. It's upside down, backwards, and reverse. Yes, it is. And I've also heard you either love it or you hate it, and there's usually nowhere in between. But paper piecing allows you to get that difficult angle or difficult points, like triangle points that come together absolutely spot on perfect with paper piecing. It's really incredibly easy. Just don't let the upside down, backwards, and reverse throw you off. All it is, it's the same thing when you sew, when you do your fabrics right sides together, except you're now putting a piece of paper on top of it that's going to have a line that you're going to sew directly on. That's it. That's it. That's how easy it is to do. So what you're going to need is, this is the template right here, and it comes with the pattern, obviously. Now, when you go to print this, you need to go to your printer settings. Before you print it, go to printer settings or go to options. It depends on what kind of printer you have, but you need to do this. You need to print at 100%, not fit to page. If you fit to page, it will not be the correct size, okay? All right, another thing is, find you some paper scissors, not your quilting scissors. Or you can use your rotary cutter if it's an old rotary cutter. With this one's not an old rotary cutter with a dull blade to cut out your paper piecing. Now, mine actually has a solid line just so that you could see it better, but the one that you're going to get, the outer line of this is a dashed line. That is the seam allowance where you will be that you're going to trim it up against, okay? All right, I promise, it's easy peasy. So what are you going to do? When you download the pattern, and please make sure you're not downloading the pattern with an iPad or an iPhone. I have no clue where those things go, and I always have to end up sending the pattern to whoever does this every single time. I don't know. I'm not a excuse me. I'm not an Apple device user, so I don't know how to tell you where to find it. Maybe you can, sorry, there's a piece of fuzz. Maybe you can look up online or call a friend and see if they can tell you where it goes. All right, it is now time to gather all our supplies. So go grab your pattern, download it, print your template at 100%. Gather your fabrics and let's get them cut. And let's make this pumpkin spice quilt block. So I've already cut out my template using my scissors. All right, so let's move on to how we need to prepare, because we're going to start with what I would consider the hardest part first. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Let's learn this new step, this new technique. All right, so you're going to take your paper. Now remember, your template is going to have the dashes around it. Mine does not. It's just the way I printed it, so don't worry. It's okay, I promise. So what you're going to do is you're going to prepare your paper. We're going to fold it directly on this creased, or excuse me, this solid line right here, this triangle, this angled line. So I'm going to fold it back directly on that line first, crease it with my fingers, and then I bring it forward. There you go. So our next step is pretty easy. I've got my rotary cutter here. You're going to need that. And let me grab a small acrylic ruler. You're going to need one of those. All right, we're getting the sewing machine set up. And again, now for this step right here, you need to change the stitch length of your machine. You need to go down to either a 1.8 or a 1.6. I am choosing a 1.6. All right, so for our next step, we're going to take our green square. We're going to face it right side down on the table, wrong side up. You're going to take your paper, place it directly on top of there. Now, because we're going to be maneuvering this, I'm going to place a pin through all of it to hold it all together. Easy, right? So where we have this folded back, we're going to take our ruler and we're going to take the 1/4 inch line from our ruler and place it on that fold. Hold it tight because we do have a pin in there. It's going to wiggle just a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Now we're going to trim a 1/4 inch away from that fold. We're taking that off, that tiny little piece. Okay? It's easy so far, isn't it? Next, we're going to pick this up, and that's why we have it pinned together. And we're going to take our cream colored rectangle, and you know what? Let me look at the pattern because our green is our C, our cream is B. All right, put this back up here. Okay, so this is our B. Now, we're going to go right sides together, okay? Right sides together. We're going to align just like that. Those two edges, just like that. And notice how I have some coming off of here and some coming off of here. If you feel better, you can center it if you need to. I'm feeling pretty good, pretty confident about this. Now I'm going to flip this piece over. Double check that you've got everything lined up. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to place this under my, there it is. I'm going to place this under my needle and I'm going to start sewing out here and I'm going to go all the way across at 1.6 stitch length. Okay, it's not hard. Don't overthink it. Remember, it's just fabric. It's not nerve endings. All right, so let me get this sewn. And you can either choose to sew with an open toe foot if that helps you see the line better, or you can sew with a basic foot. Where's my basic foot? The one that all machines come with, it, just the basic foot. I have my 1/4 inch foot on here. It doesn't matter to me. I can see, and I also have my laser light on. Okay, so let me get this sewn. I'll bring it back over to you. And I've already removed the pin so that I don't sew over the pin. And look, there's the, see I stitched directly on that line. All right, so our next step is we're going to fold this back just like that. Okay, so we're going to fold it back, finger press it, and then we're going to trim it to size. So we're going to, oops, I almost landed on there. So I'm not going to take the paper off yet. I'll take it off in just a second. There it is. All right, let me move these two pieces. I'm going to use the exterior of this, and I'm going to just trim this piece off over here. Oh, I missed. There it goes. It's time for a new blade. Okay, so now I'm going to discard this. I don't need to keep it. Move the ruler away. Now, when you flip it over, see how the stem now is on the correct side, or this is the stem, but see how the white area, the cream, is now correct on the right side? Because at first we were over here, and now we're over here. So now we can remove the paper. So all I do is just grab it. And there you go. See how easy that was? Now I'm going to put the iron to it so that it lays nice and flat. Now it's time for us to get set up to do the next part. So now we're on the next part of the pattern, and we're going to be making our half square triangles. You're going to need 2 half square triangles per pumpkin spice block. So that means a total of 4. Don't forget, you're also going to need to make 2 of the stems because there's 2 pumpkin spice blocks. So we're going to use the traditional method, and that is where you draw a diagonal line from corner to corner on the back side of your E squares. Okay, you're going to draw a diagonal line on the back side of your E cream colored squares. Match it to an orange, because these are the half square triangles and these are the corners. The top 2 corners, we'll bring the block over here. It's these corners right here. These corners down at the bottom, just in case you can't see them, these down here, this is our next step, and those are stitch and flip. Very, very easy. All right, so from now, we're just going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from that drawn line. And you know what, if you've never done that method, it's very easy. So we're going to take, now this is my 1/4 inch foot with a fabric guide, that black little metal piece, the flange right there. And so you can pretend like I'm sewing, and I have that flange running right along the drawn line, and my needle will go a 1/4 inch away from that drawn line. You sew this way, turn the block, let's keep it lined up, and do the same thing. So you'll sew on this side and this side, and then we're going to cut apart on that drawn line and trim it to size. Now that information is in the pattern. I oversized these blocks for you so that it's, excuse me, so that you get a little bit of wiggle room. Now, the alternate method is the method that I prefer to do. You don't need to draw the diagonal line, but I still like to have that little bit of wiggle room. So instead of drawing the diagonal line, I go ahead and I go right sides together with my 2 triangles. So because they're the corners, I do have that peachy orange color. I'm going to go ahead and place the ruler from corner to corner, and I'm going to go ahead and cut them apart. This is my preferred method, but most people don't like this method, and that's okay. But if you want to give it a try, now all we're going to do is sew a 1/4 inch along this edge and this edge. They're already together. Just be gentle when picking them up. Go to your sewing machine and sew. All right, so our next step now is you're going to open, you're going to press towards the darker color. In this case, it is the orange, and we're going to trim them to size. Let me get mine pressed and trimmed down to size, and we'll meet you right back here, and we're going to do stitch and flip next. Now, our next step is we're going to make our bottom units. Very easy. Notice we have a left and a right. Left and a right. So make sure that you follow along. All right, so I chose these 2 orangish rectangle. Okay, what are those? Why can I not remember that today? They are, no, they're not. Shoot, try that one more time. They're GIs. That's funny. But I did label them G/I because there's a left and there's a right. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's take note. I'm going to bring this back over here. Okay, let me move that one because that might distract you. Okay, so the left one needs to, the angle needs to go from the center left side of the orange rectangle down to the bottom right-hand corner. And this one's going to go opposite. So it's kind of like right now they're making like a V, if you can see that. But when we fold them back, we'll have that. So you're going to go right sides together. And you're going to sew directly on that drawn line. Now both of them, you just have to watch where or which direction the angled line is going, because again, you have to have a left and a right because we're making the corners of the pumpkins. Let me get these sewn and then we'll lay out our block. It's that quick and easy. I'm going to start sewing from the center side over here to the bottom corner. It's easier for the feed dogs to pick up this than it is to pick up a corner. For our next step, we need to trim these. So you're going to fold it back and then you're going to make sure that it goes all the way to the corner, and we are going to trim off the excess. Because remember, we're making 2 of these, so you'll have to do 2 lefts and 2 rights. 2 lefts and 2 rights. So after you sew on that line, you will trim off the excess. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to press them in place and then we're going to lay the block out. We don't need to trim these to size because they are the correct size. All right, I'll meet you back here in just a moment and we're going to lay our block out. Okay, here we go. I have it laid out. And I'm running out of certain colors, so I'm using what I have left. Feel free to do the same if you're in the same boat. All right, so all of these are your F squares. You've got your half square triangles. You've got your stitch and flip corners. We have it all together. We have it laid out. Take your cell phone and take a picture of this before you start putting it together. And then look at that picture and study. Is everything okay? Like, I really don't like this right here. What do you think? I want to move this. I know everybody's going, oh, don't you do this? Don't you do that? Come on, move it. All right. So let's see here. I want to pick this one. No. Is it okay if I do this maybe? I bet some of you guys are saying, move this one, move that one. Okay, I know this one's a very strong color. I kind of like that. All right, here we go. First thing you're going to join are so this is A, here's your stem, and here's D. You're going to join those 3. All right, so we're going to join this row right here, and you're going to press all in one direction. All of them need to go in one direction. Then you're going to join this row, and that seam allowance is going to go the opposite direction that this row goes. Join all of these together, and this seam allowance is going to go the opposite direction of this one. So if this row, the seam allowance goes that way, then this one goes this way, this one goes that way. You're going to follow the same procedure and join all of these together and press the seam allowance in the opposite direction of the row above it. Once you get all your rows sewn, then you're going to join row to row. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Now we're going to join this top portion to the bottom portion of the pumpkin. So we're going to go right sides together. Now I start in the middle. And when you start in the middle, you're going to nest these seams. So I'm going to pull them back like this. And I kind of angled it. Sorry about that. And so we've got this seam allowance button up against that one. So they're right next to each other. So let me fold that back. We're going to go raw edge to raw edge. Line those center seams up first. Place it in, and now these 2 should line up. These corners right here, the side, and that top portion right there should line up perfectly. And if they're only about like less than 1/8 of an inch off, honestly, as long as your seams across your row are lined up, and if you're off just a teeny tiny bit over here or over on the other side, it's fine. That part will get disguised in when you sew it to the next step. So it'll get caught in the seam allowance, okay? And so no one will know. And that way, what is showing to them, which is across the top, everything looks like you just sewed everything so well. And you did, because you pinned it in place. Now, if you still can't get things to line up, then definitely go look and see if something is, maybe you didn't sew that perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. Maybe it got real skinny or real narrow, and go fix it quickly before you have to explain it to somebody. All right, so I'm getting this last one in here, and then we've got this one over here. All right, so that's what it looks like. Let me get this one sewn. Looks pretty good. I need to get it pressed. All right, I'm going to get those sashing pieces. They are from the cream fabric.
Press your pumpkins. Next step, join the cream sashing rectangles to the top and bottom of the pumpkins. Now press. Next step, we're going to join the pumpkin spice blocks to the sides of the bordered Diane's Market Square, and we are done. Get ready for our next block, Maple Leaves. Thank you for joining me today. If you like my video tutorials, please click the subscription button. Also, to learn more about upcoming quilt-alongs, subscribe to my newsletter. You can find the links below in the description box. Have a fabulous day and happy quilting!